Good afternoon or evening. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Susan Evans. Kensington Senior Living has 7 unique communities, 4 located in Virginia, Maryland, and New York, and 3 sister communities located in California. Kensington is truly privileged to support caregivers and professionals from coast to coast. Kensington focuses on relationship-based care built on the foundation of our promise to love and care for your family as we do our own. That promise is what initially drew me to become a member of the Kensington family, as my father lived at Kensington for almost 7 years. It is programs such as the one you are attending now that are so important for those of us walking through a caregiver journey to hear from expert professionals on keeping us current with the latest advances in care, management, and treatment of conditions that affect seniors and their families. The webinar today on the positive results from low-dose CBD delivers fascinating results. I witnessed firsthand with my father the benefits of CBD versus the horrible side effects of pharmaceuticals. I am so impressed with the leadership at Kensington to spend time and valuable resources to assist their residents. It is truly remarkable. If you're new to the Zoom platform, this webinar will be in presentation format. This means your cameras and your microphones will remain off and muted throughout the presentation. We will have a live Q&A at the end. Each of our attendees today will be receiving a recording of this webinar, along with links to connect you with Kensington, Feldmeth, and CV Sciences that will be offering a special discount code today to our audience. Please share with friends and family. You will hear from Dr. Steve, who will set the stage and lay the groundwork for understanding CBD. This will be followed by a presentation by Sue Feldmeth and Leandra Sims, sharing the results of their case studies with testimonial from residents and family members. Jesse will then join the panel and share the full product spectrum from CV Sciences. Dr. Steve, please join me.
Thank you so much, Susan, and I am really thrilled to be here and be part of this webinar to discuss the use of low-dose CBD in an elderly population, some of whom have cognitive impairment. I'm a family physician by training, but for the past 25 years, I've worked in the field of pharmaceutical drug safety, where I've worked with pharma and biologics companies to monitor the safety of their products. And for the past more than 10 years, I've done the same thing in the dietary supplement industry. I co-founded a company called Supplement Safety Solutions, where we work with supplement companies in assessing the safety of their supplement products. Among the companies that I've worked with is CV Sciences, who is sponsoring this webinar. Now, CV Sciences has for its entire duration been committed to the science of CBD, and they're the only company to have conducted and published a variety of studies, including a non-clinical toxicology study, a randomized placebo-controlled study, a case report, a case series, and a 2-year post-marketing study on the safety of CBD in the real world. Now, let me be clear. I'm coming to you as an interested physician. I am not an employee of CV Sciences. Full disclosure, I have used their products for more than 5 years, and I'm a big fan. I will say that, in my opinion, CBD is the most exciting molecule that I've encountered in the 40 years since I graduated from med school. And if you go to PubMed, any of you can go to PubMed, which is the largest free medical literature search engine, and just type in CBD and clinical use, you will see a large number of literature hits, meaning CBD is being studied in a variety of applications. Now, there's a lot of confusion about marijuana, hemp, CBD, and THC, and I hope I can clarify that. Hemp and marijuana, interestingly enough, are really from the same plant species, from the flowering plant in the Cannabaceae family. But there's a big difference between the two, and that is in the concentration of THC, or tetrahydrocannabinol. Hemp contains 0.3% by weight of THC or less, and marijuana contains more than 0.3% by weight. The higher the THC concentration, the more likely you are to experience a high. Now, because of the Farm Bill in 2018, it is federally permitted to sell CBD products as long as they are derived from hemp and as long as they have a THC concentration of 0.3% or less. So hemp-derived CBD, which we're going to be talking about here, is not likely to be intoxicating. Now, if CBD can't get you high, then why take it? Well, that's a good question. Research into the medicinal qualities of the cannabis plant, including THC and CBD, has been a massively growing area. There are approximately 120 different chemical entities called cannabinoids in the cannabis plant. CBD and THC are the most plentiful and the most important of these cannabinoids. Now, CBD interacts with at least 60 different chemicals, neurotransmitters, and molecular pathways that play an important role in pain, stress, anxiety, sleep, mental health, immunity, inflammation, and other organ systems. Now, today, we're going to be discussing CBD as a low-dose dietary supplement, not a drug. Now, it turns out that CBD is actually approved as a drug called Epidiolex, which is used to treat a rare type of pediatric seizures. Now, the dose of CBD used in these pediatric patients is quite high, up to 1,500 milligrams a day. And interestingly, even at these very high doses, the safety profile of CBD is favorable. Now, according to the dietary supplement law, once an approved medication, once a product has been approved as a medication, it cannot go into a dietary supplement. And because of this technicality, FDA will state publicly that CBD is not a dietary supplement. However, companies like CV Sciences and others have been selling CBD as a dietary supplement for 7 years or more, and FDA has not stopped them from doing that. Now, dose is a very, very important aspect of both drugs and dietary supplements. In general, the higher the dose, the greater the biological activity, but also the greater the likelihood of adverse events. And the doses that have been used in the patients that Leandra and Sue are going to talk about shortly are in the range of 15 milligrams a day. That is 100-fold, 100 times less than it has been used in patients with pediatric seizures. Despite it being a small dose, it has an effect. And as I mentioned earlier, the lower the dose, the lower the likelihood of adverse events. And importantly, in this population, the lower the likelihood of interaction with other medications that these patients may be taking. Now, I've been monitoring the safety of CV Sciences products for more than 4 years, and to date, the safety profile has been excellent. Now, I'm really happy to turn the program over to Leandra Sims and Sue Feldmeth, who will describe their experience using low-dose CBD in the assisted living setting. Now, what Sue will describe is a type of study called a case series, in which an intervention is given to several patients, and then the changes monitored. This kind of study is often instrumental as a hypothesis-generating study, and with the results that can then be studied in a more controlled fashion, such as a placebo-controlled trial, which can more accurately determine the benefits of a product. So now it's my pleasure to turn the program over to Leandra and Sue.
Thanks, Dr. Steve. My name is Sue Feldmeth, and I'm a registered nurse. I've been a nurse for over 30 years, and my career started in pediatrics. I worked in a hospital setting in pediatrics, but I turned my attention to medical cannabis about 6 years ago to help my mother, who was elderly and suffering from chronic arthritis pain. I didn't know much about medical cannabis or CBD, and frankly, I was kind of opposed to the whole idea. So I came in as a great skeptic, but once I started learning the science of this plant, how it interacts with our body through our endocannabinoid system, I really made a 180-degree change in my thinking about this plant, and especially once I saw the results in my own mother. So I started a consulting business to educate and guide other people who wanted to use this plant for various medical reasons. Leandra?
I'm Leandra Sims. I work here at the Kensington Sierra Madre, and similar to Sue, my interest in CBD also came from working with the residents here living with dementia. Kensington is an amazing company that allows for a lot of training, and fortunately at one of my trainings, I actually got to work with someone living with Lewy body dementia, and she had shared with me, well, the one thing that really helps me is CBD. And that is what definitely sparked my interest in CBD, because who better to tell me than someone actually living with dementia that this is helping me. So that's when I started to become interested. And then Dr. Gurovich, our medical director here at the Kensington, introduced us to Sue Feldmeth. And she helped us with an incredibly difficult case where almost every type of medication had been used and nothing was really helping us at all. So we brought in Sue, who just sat down with the family. And because she had used it with her mom, it really eased how they felt about it. And we were able to start using some CBD. And it was the very beginning of Sue and my journey together, because this man just started to be able to read poetry. I came in and the family was just in absolute tears, because we walked in and he was sitting with his care partner and reading poetry, which was just such a better quality of life for him, and nothing else had worked. And when I say we tried everything, we really did. So Sue can maybe share a little more about that.
But before we get started, we're going to watch a short video clip of a current resident and her son, and he's going to describe the effect that CBD has had on his mom.
How are you feeling, Lenny?
Fine.
Yeah, how do you feel like this morning? Do you feel like you got a good night's sleep and you feel well rested?
Oh yeah.
We added in just maybe 15 milligrams in the morning, 15 milligrams at night. She started having better rest.
Yeah.
In fact, I was here last night till 12:30 and she only got up one time.
So you're feeling pretty good.
Yeah, so I think that's been the biggest impact for her.
Sure.
And it's just that I think sleep has such a major impact.
Oh, I can tell you, you know, as a career firefighter, when we go all those hours without sleep, and you know, it's simple for us. You know, we have to make decisions, and you do really have to concentrate sometimes. And I can only imagine with her, you know, lack of sleep. And there's nothing like a good night's sleep. Yeah.
And I think with her being such a safety risk too, I think that's, you know, using like a sleep aid or using like something that would make her more dizzy could have led to a lot of falls.
Sure.
And so CBD was a much better answer that had very little side effects, and except the side effects that we wanted, which was sleep aid.
It's good. I've also noticed that I get less phone calls. You know, I know in the evenings, you know, sundowners can be a problem, and I get phone calls to help, you know, talk to her and keep her calm and reassure her. I get less phone calls. Are you noticing a lot of?
Lenny.
Are you noticing that she's behaving?
I just noticed that I think because of the sleep, because I think that when those phone calls are happening, it's also an expression of a need.
Sure.
And the need is probably exhaustion and not being sure what to do with it. And so I think that, yeah, definitely noticed just an overall more engagement, really excited about taking walks in the park in the morning and exercise, lots of energy, and a new dress.
And a brand new dress.
Very cute. Well, as the video mentioned, we were using CBD to help with sleep for that resident. And one thing I noticed firsthand with my own mother was that I started using CBD with her for its anti-inflammatory effect to help calm down her arthritis pain. And her chronic pain was really impacting her life. She was taking opioids about 3 a day and still not getting the pain under control. And that was causing other side effects. And so my hope was, and I didn't know if CBD was capable of really helping her, but we were desperate, which is how, unfortunately, many people turn to CBD when they're desperate, which hopefully that'll change and they'll start thinking about that first. But pretty quickly, getting her on some CBD on a regular basis, 2 or 3 times a day, she was quickly able to wean off the opioid. And what I noticed was over time, over a few months of being on it and kind of stabilized, her sleep had improved, her anxiety had improved, and my mother also suffered from dementia. And it was probably a few months into it. I knew she knew I was her daughter, but she had, for a while, I think, forgotten my name, so never called me by name. And probably about 3 or 4 months after using the CBD, she started using my name again sporadically. So that was kind of a surprise. And as she progressed, we did end up having to add a little bit of THC to her program at night to help with the pain and to help give her a little bit more restful sleep. As everybody responds to CBD differently, for her, it kind of makes her alert and awake, which was great during the day, but we found it was a little alerting when we gave it to her too close to bedtime. So we concentrated her dosing in the morning and the afternoon of CBD and a little bit of THC at night. And that just really illustrates how there's no one size fits all with medical cannabis. It's really tailored to each person. Everybody's going to respond a little bit differently. Everybody's endocannabinoid system is a little bit different. And when I say endocannabinoid system, it's a system that all mammals have, comprised of receptors that are on different cells, as well as chemicals our body makes called endogenous cannabinoids. So we make these cannabis-like compounds in our body, and they're used to regulate, like Dr. Steve had said, mood, appetite, sleep, stress response, inflammatory response, lots of different processes that go on throughout our body, and it just kind of works quietly in the background. And when this system is out of balance, out of whack, then you start running into problems. And CBD is kind of a nice way to kind of supplement what our body used to be able to do, maybe, but now is having trouble. Just as we get older, we don't synthesize vitamin D as well. Our hormone levels change. Our production of endocannabinoids tend to decrease a bit as well. So just by adding back some CBD, and sometimes a little bit of THC is required with dementia patients, it just kind of helps recalibrate and rebalance and stabilize their mood and help with sleep. It's a pretty gentle effect. I don't know if you want to add anything else to that, Leandra, before we launch into our case studies.
Yeah, I agree that there's a lot of misconception that the CBD itself is treating but it's more just helping that body balance out. And that's really what we've seen in general, because people will say, well, how can it help with so many things? And I think that was a really good explanation of that. And I think our journey has just been amazing, because as we've had these difficult cases, that's really where we started, where there was no other option. And as we've studied them and gone forward, we've been starting to say, well, how come we waited until the very last thing to try this? And what if we were able to try this first, try this very low to no side effect option first,
Right.
rather than some of these psychotropics that do have a lot of side effects. So I
Mhm.
think that's how you and I got excited to reach out to CV Sciences, and they got excited to join us and help us do a case study, which has had nothing but affirmed what we were sort of noticing already.
Right. And
And I
I
just
think,
wanted to
yeah, go ahead.
underscore a couple of things that Sue mentioned. She mentioned people are different. And, I mentioned earlier that CBD addresses 60 different molecular pathways, and we're all a little bit different. And so it's not, there's no one size fits all. And I think another thing that Sue mentioned, and she'll speak a little bit more when she gets into the case studies, is starting with a low dose and then increasing and seeing how people do. And so, and then she even went even further by adding THC based on how her mom was doing, and again, seeing the results. And I think to what Leandra said, there's a very, very strong safety profile in this product. Even at the mega doses that were taken with these kids with pediatric seizures, the doses that Sue and Leandra are talking about are really quite low, but they still have an effect.
Mm-hmm. Right. And, everything has a side effect, and CBD does have some documented side effects, but really, I don't think we've seen any, and it must be due to the low doses that we're using. A lot of the residents are on many other medications, but from everything I've read and in my experience, when the doses are about 40 to 50 milligrams per dose or less, you don't see a lot of interaction with other medications. It's when you get into the hundreds of milligrams that there may be some sort of interaction. And the other thing is, as our bodies change, I think the CBD dosing can change. There was a point with my mom where she was getting 100 milligrams of CBD in the morning, 100 milligrams in the afternoon, and 15 milligrams of THC at night at her worst. And then as she slowly was getting better and better and losing a little weight and her diet was improving, we started weaning her down, and she was her pain was just as well controlled. We were able to get her down to 20 milligrams in the morning, 20 milligrams. So it kind of depends on what's going on with a person's body. And it's not you're on this dose and this is the dose you're on for life. It can change as you improve and also ramp up as things maybe get worse. So it's important to be in tune to what the person is going through. But we'll start with our case studies. And the first one was an 89-year-old woman living at the Kensington with Alzheimer's disease. And she was having a lot of sleep disturbances. Her lack of sleep was causing her to be awake and pace the halls at night. And then in the morning, it was resulting in a lot of drowsiness during the day, causing her to miss out on activities and socialization, especially during mealtime. So we started her on 18 milligrams of CBD at bedtime. We just wanted to really help her relax and go to sleep. And then we noticed she was sleeping at night, but she was really drowsy in the morning. So over a couple weeks, we said, well, let's divide her dose and give her 9 milligrams at dinner and then the other 9 milligrams at bedtime to kind of still concentrate it to the evening, but sort of separate it out. And that seemed to help her sleep, but it eliminated that morning drowsiness. So after about 19 weeks, we observed her for 19 weeks, and we scored her before she started CBD and after she started, or after the 19 weeks. A simple scoring system where we measured her anxiety. Her score went from moderate before the CBD to none after the 19 weeks. Her sleep quality went from poor to good, and her quality of life score remained the same at fair. She is Spanish speaking, so sometimes there's a little bit of a language barrier that impedes her socialization. But at the end of the 19 weeks, the caregivers were interviewed, and they commented and described her as being in a good mood. She began feeding herself again. She was walking better. She laughs and jokes more. She's living her best life and she's doing great. And so really those things are the result, I think, of getting a good night's sleep. So CBD just helped facilitate that good night's sleep. And then that's the outcome of that. And with our second case study, we had an 87-year-old woman who was ambulatory and active. Her chief complaints were of lower back pain and neck pain. So we started her on 9 milligrams of CBD twice a day. And you might wonder, why 9, why not 10? And it's just because our product that we have works out to, I believe is 36 milligrams per milliliter. So 9 milligrams is a quarter of a milliliter. So it's easy to measure. 9 milligrams twice a day. We increased her over time to 18 milligrams in the evening, still kept her 9 milligrams in the morning. And after 17 weeks, we reassessed her to see if it had made an improvement, and her anxiety score improved from moderate to mild. And granted, we were just giving it to her basically for her pain, but her anxiety improved. Her sleep remained good. It had always been good. And her quality of life score improved from fair to good. The caregivers commented that she seemed happier, more talkative, and she continued to make improvements, but at some point on the 10th week of the study, her primary care doctor, which is not the doctor at the facility, ordered her to have some Tylenol routinely every day. So that kind of confounded the results. It was hard to tell if her continued pain relief was due to the CBD or now due to the Tylenol. But we were seeing some results and some improvements before the Tylenol was added. The third study that we wanted to mention was an 81-year-old, also a female, who was living at the facility with her husband. Her husband was had terminal cancer and was on hospice. And this was creating, it was a great source of anxiety for her, as you could imagine. And she also had some knee pain that she complained about. So she was, at the time we started, she was taking around the clock Tylenol and or acetaminophen and ibuprofen 3 times a day to manage her knee pain. When we started her on 15 milligrams of CBD twice a day, and she remained on that dose for 10 weeks, she was able to stop the around the clock acetaminophen and ibuprofen, and she only got occasional PRN doses as needed. So in the final 6 weeks of the CBD study period, she was no longer taking the routine pain meds. Her total pain medication usage went down to an average of half a dose of acetaminophen per week. And she had also had some as needed doses of tramadol, which is a stronger, it's a narcotic type drug. And she was not needing that anymore as well. Through the 10 weeks that we observed her, her husband did pass away, but she remained fairly calm, although sad, and demonstrating good coping skills. The caregivers reported that she talks more with other residents. She loves to go outside. She's less anxious. It was easier to shower her and transfer herself. And she was able to transfer herself to the couch, which before she required assistance due to her knee pain. Her anxiety score had decreased, and her quality of life score had increased. And her pain level changed from a level 4 out of 5 before starting the CBD to no pain. And that's while on the CBD, but after we had stopped the around the clock acetaminophen and ibuprofen. So that was a good result for us. And it was interesting that all 3 of these case studies, CBD was being used initially to treat different things: sleep in one, anxiety in the other, and pain in the third one. And usually we think of pharmaceuticals as you take it for a specific reason. And CBD is different in that it can have added benefits. You take it for one thing and then it helps kind of improve something else. So that's one of the beauties and what really has me impressed. And like Dr. Steve had said, it's the most exciting molecule he's seen in his career. I feel the same way. And I was very skeptical when I was first learning about how many things CBD was being used to treat. I'd never encountered one product that could do so many different things, and I really didn't believe it. So every step of this journey for me, I had to be convinced. And I was, to the point where here I am telling you all about it. And Leandra, I know you've observed a lot of things, being the man on the street, being the person who's there and watching the residents who are on it. And I remember one of the first things you said when I asked early on, as we were using CBD with a few more residents after that initial one, and I said, what do you notice? Do you think it's making a difference? And you said, yeah, listen. And it was lunchtime and I wasn't sure what I was listening for. And I said, what? You said, it's quiet. Usually lunchtime, there's screaming, there's just lots of chaos. And she saw everyone's just eating. And so I thought that always kind of stuck with me.
Yeah, it's been absolutely an incredible journey. We're very lucky at Kensington to have support from, like I said, our medical director and also our executive director, Cece. She just did an amazing job of education too for our families, providing a lot of webinars and talks. I remember there was a day she said, everybody, let's all go listen to a talk on CBD. And she really was passionate about it as well as I, because we wanted something different. And especially after we saw the results of that man living a much better life, we thought, could we reduce the psychotropics, which we absolutely have here at Sierra Madre. It is amazing how many less we use here. Psychotropics in this case, of course, would be anything like Seroquel, Ativan, Haldol, and these medications have extremely high side effects, and the safety risk is very high on some of them. So it's just, I think we have about 18 residents. Is that true on CBD here at the Kensington now?
I think a little bit more right now. We're probably closer to 20.
And still growing. And I think the reason that the response is so amazing and that we have 20 is that it's just such a better alternative, and it really has changed the lives of the residents. And for me, being someone who's, wanting to always help people living with dementia live their best life, and that's my dream, of course, CBD is just a huge part of that now. Especially Lewy body dementia has been just some of the cases of Lewy body, knowing that 50% of the time, some of these psychotropics can have almost the opposite effect and cause increased side effects of the dementia. So what can happen to someone with Lewy body is we can give them a psychotropic and then all of a sudden they have worsening symptoms, and then they're being almost diagnosed with like psychosis, but really it's something we may have caused. So I think the CBD for them has allowed them to just go back to being who they are, whether it's someone who bosses everybody around or someone who runs the tea party, or just is able to, like you said, recognize and talk to their family, get better sleep. I remember the first case that you were talking about when you said that she didn't sleep. She was really walking up and down the halls, and we were having to, kind of keep her from going into rooms. And it was, when I say it was a night and day, it really was such a difference to have her sleep. And that's a huge change in her quality of life, because now instead of sort of being chased up and down the halls, she's going for walks in the park, which is just, it's just amazing here to see us grow. And I hope that more people get more comfortable, get education, but always work kind of with, like you said, Sue, with someone who is a consultant who does really know how to help you with the dosing. Because I will say, prior to having a great consultant like Sue, we weren't seeing the same results. And I think it's because it was just sort of a guess. And you really don't want to guess on this. You really want someone like Sue who really knows what and how to use it, because that's, for me, it takes the village, and it was the education, it was the passion from CC and everything all together.
I just wanted to make one comment. Leandra and Sue are, direct patient providers. As I'm hearing the story, and clearly the most important thing is to help our patients, help your patients. But by doing that, you're also, I think, helping the staff, because if the staff no longer has to deal with a combative patient, if the staff doesn't have to get stressed about worrying about someone going into another person's room, if the staff has patients who are happy and rested, then it's going to be better for them. They're going to, if they need to do something with them, it's going to be easier. And, I think we sometimes in healthcare, we forget about those providers who are kind of nonstop providing that care. And I think by having patients living better lives, I think your staff lives better lives as well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We've tons of questions coming in, and I also have tons of questions that were submitted at registration, but I just wanted to say I'm a testimonial like Lenny is and her son. I did the same thing with my father, who passed away from Alzheimer's a year ago, lived at Kensington for 7 years. And I felt like I got my dad back, a little bit of my dad back. And I totally witnessed that. And the side effects of the pharmaceuticals took him away. So it's worth a try. It's just worth a try, even without dementia, just in our elderly population. And I also have to applaud what Leandra said. CC DeGraff, the executive director at Kensington Senior Living in Sierra Madre, contacted me about a year ago and said, let's do this. Let's find CBD. I've heard really good things about it. I really want to introduce this to our community, and it's made a remarkable difference. So thank you to the leadership at Kensington. I've gotten a few questions in the Q&A already. Do other Kensington locations have this? And they're all working on it. So stay tuned. But without any more time here, I'd like to introduce Jesse. Jesse, please join us and share a few words about yourself, and he'll be educating us on the CV Sciences and their spectrum of product.
Thank you, Susan. Thanks, everyone. Great job thus far. I won't spend too much time discussing the company I work for, CV Sciences, makers of Plus CBD, because there's quite a few questions to get to, and I know we have about 20 minutes to spin through all the details. So a little bit about CV Sciences. I've been with the company since 2015. We've been producing CBD products and cannabinoid products since 2014. So almost a decade in the market, on shelves in retail and in practitioner offices. We are currently the #1 selling CBD supplement in natural product retail. And I want to really highlight that, because if you think about natural products in retail in general, they're a very discerning customer base, just as their practitioners. A very important aspect to have when looking at, this wide swath of CBD brands out there. So, we're talking Sprouts, natural grocers, mothers markets, moms on the East Coast, these really kind of boutique niche markets who have a very discerning eye when selecting what products they put on shelf. So we're the #1 selling product line in that channel. We're in about 6,500 locations across the US. And really the main staple for us here is leading with science. So we're the industry leader in evidence-based science for both the safety and efficacy of our products. Dr. Steve hit on 1 or 2 of the studies, but we have over 8 published studies demonstrating both on our branded product line. And I think the thing we're most proud of here, and this is back in 2017, 18, we went deep and did all the toxicology studies to demonstrate the safety of our product for the intended use as a dietary supplement for the mass population, from a 2-year-old to a 100-year-old. Very exciting. Also, we're the first company to ever produce a randomized controlled trial which Dr. Steve hit on as well. And I think it's very interesting because what we found in that randomized controlled trial, 65 relatively healthy adults, is they slept better, they ate less, and they had more enjoyment for life. So kind of very esoteric, but really encompasses everything we're talking about here. In an elderly population with really severe issues, obviously CBD products are helpful, but even just normal folks like myself, my family, my sphere of influence, taking the CBD as just a supplement to really prime that pump and balance all of these physiological processes is really a great idea. Lastly, CV Sciences plus CBD, we have over 60 products, so a really wide range to meet all consumers and practitioners' needs, really. So you're talking obviously supplements to ingest orally, topicals, and really the variety of milligrams, so 10 milligrams up into 50 milligrams, so a nice ranging of dosing, all your standard supplement form factors, right? Your gummies, your soft gels, your oils, your tinctures, and a variety of topicals as well. So at the end of the presentation here, we're definitely going to kick out a flyer for all the participants. It's going to give you a kind of a cheat sheet on how to identify what CBD brand or company you should go with. Additionally, it will have a link to our website, pluscbdoil.com. Don't need to write that down. It's in the flyer with a link to click on. And everyone on the show here can obviously use that link with a code Kensington for 35% off your entire order. Please feel free to share it with friends and family, and really just to see what these products can do just to boost your health and wellness and your outcomes on the daily basis.
Thank you so much for that. And in the chat right now, or in the live Q&A, there's a lot of questions about who prescribes this. Do I need to go to a doctor? Does an RN prescribe it? Social worker? Any update on that from Jesse or Sue or Steve or Leandra?
I can take it first since I'm already on the hot mic here. Definitely no prescription needed. All of these products are sold really, on retail shelves as well. So you can go to a local Sprouts or a regional chain store like that and find our products, or just ship directly to your home. So no prescription necessary. Obviously, if you have a lot of medications you're taking, and Dr. Steve and Leandra and team can hit on this too, contraindications, very small chance, especially at the milligrams that we're talking about here, 15 to 50, not a lot to be concerned with, but certainly if you are concerned, you go to your main healthcare provider and just make sure. But like we're saying here, the ranges and the supplements that we're talking about here, not a lot of contraindication, not a lot of adverse effects at all. Dr. Steve and Leandra.
Sure, and I think that one of the powerful part of CV Sciences is that dose range and formula. So you could go, 10 milligrams to 50, but also, as Sue pointed out, they also have it in liquid form. So you could go lower. You could go to 4.5 milligrams. You could go to 9. You could go to whatever you wanted. And there's no hard, fast rule. I just would recommend that if you start at a dose, we always say, as Jesse says, start low and go slow. Start at a dose and then go, say, 3 days, see what happens, increase the dose, go another 3 days, and do it in that way. And because the safety profile is so strong, I think people don't have to worry about that. But if you have an adverse event, you get hold of call the 800 number, and I'll see that on a weekly basis. But as I said, I've been responsible for assessing the safety for the last 4 years, and the profile is really quite strong.
Mm-hmm. And I'd say, even though CBD is not really a prescribable product, it doesn't need a prescription. But I think people tend to have more success when they have some guidance, and it gives them a little bit more confidence once they get the education of, I've had many people who will say, well, I don't feel anything. Well, it's not the kind of drug that you feel something when you take it. It kind of works quietly in the background, and you've got to take it for a while sometimes to notice a result.
Well, and what I tell folks as well, it's almost like what you don't feel rather than what you do feel.
Right.
I feel a little bit less achy. I feel a little bit less perturbed. Right. So it's got more in the peripheral, in the background, like you said, Sue. So not that you feel it, it's what you don't feel that really is the outcome you're looking for.
And I've had quite a few people say, I didn't think it was doing anything. So when it ran out, I stopped taking it. And then I noticed what it was doing when I had stopped for a while. So it is
So it's
kind
not
of
it's not the feeling, it's the experience.
right. And I mean, I take it myself as well. And I just kind of feel a little bit more resilient and able to manage stressful situations a little bit more better. So on a daily basis, you're not feeling that. And there's so many great products to choose from.
Very subtle in terms of an acute experience, but profound, right? When it's part of your regimen.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Dr. Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I was going to say, and people are a little bit different. So I think Sue mentioned that sometimes the CBD was a little bit of a stimulant for her mom, and that's why they split it up. Myself and my wife, we've been taking plus CBD, the soft gel, for 7 years to sleep. So we would take it at night. And what I can tell you is I had a much more restful sleep, and I started dreaming. And I really like that. I hadn't been dreaming for a while, and I think that just told me I was going into a pretty deep sleep. I stopped taking the soft gels 2 years ago when they came up with a sleep product, which has both the CBD and melatonin and some, I think, lemon balm
And some magnolia bark. So other just common herbs.
Right. And so we love that to sleep. We take that every night to sleep. And again, same thing. And I'll tell you that, we still dream. I've had some adverse event reports of vivid dreaming, and I want to call that person up and I'd say, is that an adverse event? A vivid dream? It's not an adverse event to me. But anyway, to that point, I think, start low, go slow, and see how it works in you.
So I think that answers Ort and Steve's question. Are there any negatives? And that might be the vivid dreams, but that wouldn't be negative.
Well, here's the interesting thing is I published a study on 2 years of use of post-marketing of CV Sciences products. And that was a variety of oral, as Jesse said, oral, topical. What I'll tell you is the main adverse event for topical is not surprising. Sometimes people get a rash. That's the usual thing with any topical, whether it's a CBD product or not. But the most common adverse event, interestingly enough, was GI. So might be nausea, upset stomach. And I work with 12 other companies that are not CBD related. The most common adverse event with dietary supplements is GI related. And so, there are adverse events, but they're typically non-serious and not particularly bothersome.
I want to add one thing. What's interesting too, Dr. Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, is the GI issue. Protein powder, right? There's more GI issues percentage of customers than there is with our products, right?
Absolutely. But it was people worry, oh, it's CBD. Is it going to affect your brain? Is it going to make me intoxicated? No, it doesn't. It's GI stuff. And, one never knows. A lot of people, I know I'm on, I don't know, about 8 different dietary supplements. I've been taking them for many, many years. And who knows if someone's GI is related to something else. But in any event, the adverse event profile is very good. And I tell you, there's nothing like a good night's sleep. As not only Leandra's patients will tell you, but also for somebody who's not there yet. So
this is a great question from Susan and Pam. I'm going to combine them. Can CBD be used for Parkinson's, and any results from CBD for post-stroke clients with short-term memory loss? And that's for all of you. So Leandra, do you have experience with Parkinson's? You talked about Lewy body.
Well, Parkinson's and Lewy body can be, they're not the same thing, but 50% of the time people with Parkinson's do develop Lewy body dementia. So I've really only seen, because of where the setting I'm in, I've mostly seen the Lewy body cases, but I have seen the most positive results that we've seen have been with, in my opinion, the Lewy body. And Sue can maybe talk a little more about that as well.
And also CBD, the post-stroke, I'm interested in that too. So Steve or somebody can take that. Go ahead, Sue.
So CBD has a neuroprotective effect. It helps protect the function of the brain and the brain cells. It's an antioxidant. They've done some studies and observational and on mice, and CBD appears to help recovery from stroke be a little bit faster and more complete. So the brain knows how to repair itself when it's been injured, but CBD seems to facilitate this repair and make it work a little bit better. So yes, for post-stroke, I think it would be beneficial. And for any kind of degenerative condition, an antioxidant is going to be helpful. An anti-inflammatory is going to be helpful. Most chronic conditions have chronic inflammation as the root cause of them, whether it's, dementia, Alzheimer's, diabetes, cancer, heart disease. If chronic inflammation is at the root, then CBD as an anti-inflammatory agent is going to be beneficial. And not only beneficial when you have the disease, but 20 years before, when things are brewing, at our age, when we think we're fine. I think that's important too.
Yeah, and I think if whoever asked that great question, I'd suggest going to PubMed and just just put in the search CBD and Parkinson's. My recollection, I haven't searched that for a while. My recollection is when they have studied it in patients. The results have been mixed. The problem is once you are diagnosed with Parkinson's, the amount of L-dopa is missing from your brain has been going on for years. And so it's probably a real challenge. Similarly they've studied it in Alzheimer's models in animals, and it seems to work, but in humans, not so much. And I think it's the same concept that once you've gotten to that point, there's been a lot of neurological damage, and it's hard to reverse that. But a lot of these patients with Parkinson's and Lewy body and Alzheimer's have trouble sleeping. They have a lot of other things going on, and I think it's a good idea to try that because it may help with those symptoms. Mm-hmm. I'm a real skeptic with Alzheimer's that there's, it's kind of like the black hole of pharma. And so many companies have tried to find something that works. I'm not convinced anything really works. There are a few approved products that may improve somewhat the symptoms, but it's not impressive. So I think in those kinds of patients, it's worth trying to perhaps help some of those ancillary symptoms like anxiety and sleep, where CBD has definitely been shown to have benefit.
I'm actually going to answer this question because I firsthand can say it. And that is, I'm interested in CBD for arthritis pain. And I happen to know because I have purchased arthritis pain cream from CV Sciences. But another question that just came in is, can CBD help with vertigo? Good question. Who wants to take it?
I'll take it. I don't know. It's a great question.
I don't know.
But it wouldn't hurt to try.
Can I take one step back real quick and discuss arthritis? So we have a topical arthritis cream, amazing, as you mentioned. A newer product, which you'll see when you check out our website after the flyer sent out, it's called the Relief Soft Gel. It's basically an inflammation product. It has 3 unique ingredients. So this was formulated specifically for pain and inflammation. So CBD obviously is in the product. We know how that works for just pain signaling and dampening that system. CBDA, which is the acid-bound form of that molecule. Interesting. It doesn't really have any affinity to your blood-brain barrier, but your CBDA receptors are all through your peripheral. It's a COX-2 inhibitor, almost like an aspirin or something like, right, or an NSAID. So you have your CBD, your CBDA, and a third ingredient, which is PEA, palmitoyl ethylamide. A lot to say. Don't worry about it. It's called PEA. This is a really unique ingredient, newer to the market, plant-based. And this ingredient, they've showed a 40% reduction in pain in the pain WOMAC score for arthritis as well. So basically, this product has 3 active ingredients, all targeting pain and inflammation, just normal, like what you take an ibuprofen for or an Tylenol. But additionally, right, you get that pain WOMAC score from the arthritis reduction as well. So this is really probably the most exciting product we've launched. It's called the Relief Soft Gel. It's got a bright, like magenta bottle. You can't miss it. So that's kind of like the 1-2 combination for arthritis.
Gel and
It's a soft gel
and
Sorry.
topical.
Relief Soft Gel, yeah.
Right.
And
a
the,
lot
and the
of times-
topical, the topicals are also good for musculoskeletal stuff. I remember several years ago, my wife, before COVID, was teaching 7 Zumba classes a week. And so she's very fit, but she bent over to put on her shoes and she tweaked her back. And I had just literally the day before gotten some topical CBD, and it hadn't been open. I said, I'm not sure if this is going to work, but let me roll it on your back. And it took her half hour to get to the gym, but within 20 minutes, the pain was gone. So, and I can say personally, I've used it for musculoskeletal stuff that's relatively superficial, and back of my leg as well, and the like. So topical works as well.
One last question, Leandra, I'm going to let you start with it. A lot of the audience members have asked, how do you administer this to your residents?
That's a good question, and I'm glad that you brought it up, because although you don't need a prescription just to take it at your house or home, you do need a doctor's order. So it really has been a effort of everyone at the Kensington, from our wonderful, amazing DON, Stephanie Peck, to Dr. Gurovich. So what happens is Sue will have a consultation with the family. Then they will sort of talk about it, meet what needs, and then she will write a recommendation, which is signed by a doctor, and that's how you could administer it in a community setting. And you wouldn't need that. You wouldn't be able to just give it to your loved ones. And it's great to have, I would say, in this, because we're working with dementia, and it's wonderful to have Sue there. She definitely gets weekly feedback and then says, well, yeah, let's tweak it a little bit, let's change it a little bit. And that's been what's made all the difference in a community setting. And I do think you need that education brought into your community. Everybody needs to understand what we're doing, and from leadership to nursing, so that everyone is working together for this person. And that's what's brought the change for us here. So it is really important to get the whole village educated, and get everyone on board.
Well, it takes a team, and unfortunately we're out of time, but clearly we will be doing another webinar on CBD. So I really encourage everyone that registered is going to get a copy of the webinar. I encourage you to email us back and say, let's do this again and give us these topics, or we'd really like to dive deeper into these. We weren't sure. Dr. Steve and Jesse and Sue and Leander can get very technical, way above my knowledge base. And so we decided to really just do this webinar for a broad audience. But if you guys want more, we're here to give it. And I just can't thank CC DeGraff enough for a year ago contacting me and saying, let's do this, because I have learned so much. Super impressed with it. My mother, who's 87, takes a CBD every day. She is so much less anxious. She's happier. Oh, thank you so much. So thank you, everyone, and have a great evening, afternoon, and be safe.